Thank you for that beautiful song. I've never heard it before. Thank you. Yeah, when the music's that good, I don't have to worry if I do a bad job. Right? Because when you leave, you're going to remember that, not what I did. So thank you. And what's your name? Nina, that was beautifully a compliment there. Thank you. So I'm back. I'm happy to be back, and I have to say, Kansas City, we don't get as much snow as you do. I was kind of looking forward to snow this morning, but I know the rest of you are happy you didn't get snow, right? So I like to begin my talks with this affirmation. It's another beautiful day in my consciousness. Will you join me in knowing that? It's another beautiful day in my consciousness. And you know that's always your choice. So today I'm doing a talk called No Room in the Inn, obviously taken from the story. And let me see if I get this work right. Did I turn it on? Yes. And they told me I have to do high so they can. No, it's over here. There we go. All right. Now let's see. There we go. So I do a lot of slides. All right? And I used to see people scribbling and trying to get them all down. And then I go on the next slide and they'd go, oh. All right? So I now make all my slides available. And there's sign-up sheets out there. It's also a sneaky way to get you on my email list. I'll send you the slides. I'll send you a PDF of the slides. And I also send you a version of the daily word that Unity has given me permission to do on Sunday. I call it the absolute word. And it's a amped up version in more absolute oneness language. Because the daily word is written for a bigger audience than a Unity audience. And it's a wonderful mission that it serves. And so I do this absolute word to serve a more focused Unity clientele, so to speak. So you'll get that too, and then you have an option to opt out. Is that good? Yeah. And I'll probably work up the metaphysical workup for what I'm going to do today. Because what I'm going to do today is a metaphysical interpretation of the Christmas story. Because while the rest of Christendom is celebrating the arrival of the man Jesus as a baby, we celebrate it metaphysically as the arrival in our awareness of the Christ, of the principle, of the idea. So in Unity, we have metaphysics and we have metaphysical Bible interpretation. And metaphysics is basically the Unity's word for theology. And Unity folks have a little allergy to the word theology, so we call it metaphysics. We could call it our spiritual philosophy too. And that's my passion, that's what I teach, is Unity's spiritual philosophy. Metaphysical Bible interpretation is all about understanding the story that's beyond the literal interpretation. You see, Unity takes the Bible as representing the story of our own lives. And one of the ways we get that interpretation for ourselves is by looking at every Bible story and then looking at the meaning that's behind it based on the words that are used. So are you willing to jump into that? Okay, so it's always a little challenge to do this during a talk, but I'm gonna go for it, and you decide what you want to do with it, okay? All right, so in Unity, it's all about consciousness, and that's why I start with, it's another beautiful day in my consciousness. Because in a way, if we talk about the physical world and the world we live in here, the currency is money, isn't it? In a way, it's the coin of the realm. Well, in consciousness, the coin of the realm is really the idea or ideas. That makes sense? Everything begins with an idea. This candle could not have been made if some human didn't have an idea of a candle. So everything that we see around us that is made by humans begins with an idea, and every thought you have begins with an idea. Have you noticed that? Right? Yeah. So, I got to remember, I got to point up here. Or not. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. So, I love Snoopy. Consciousness, that annoying time between naps. Yes? Sometimes it can be very, very, very annoying. Okay? And roughly, consciousness is defined as awareness. Awareness. So we have 3 phases of mind. We have a conscious phase of mind. Hopefully that's what you're using here. If anybody's asleep, you're using the next level, which is the subconscious phase of mind. And then there's a 3rd phase of mind, which is the superconscious phase. That's the phase of, we could say, God mind, or divine ideas, or divine principle, or divine law. It's a realm that does not change. It really has no awareness, yet it interpenetrates us, and it's what we're using one way or another to manifest our lives. And so what I like about using this diagram, if you think of the iceberg and you think of the water, they're all made up of the same stuff, right? The H2O molecule. Well, metaphorically, we could say that H2O molecule is the divine. And it's interpenetrating, lays back of everything. Are you with me? Okay. If not, you can raise your hand. Okay. I'm used to teaching, so I don't want to leave anybody behind. Okay. And so the story we're looking at is Luke 2, 1 through 8. And so here we begin. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth to the city of David called Bethlehem. So he's making this journey, right? And he went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged and was expecting a child. So the decree went up from Caesar Augustus saying, everyone in his realm, which is really all the known world at the time, was the Roman Empire, everyone had to go to the town in which they were born and be registered. And of course, you know why they were being registered, right? Taxes. Taxes. Okay? So, the trip from Nazareth to Jerusalem is 90 miles. Think of that. 90 miles. A man with a woman on a donkey. 4 to 5 days to do it. And so I put this slide in here, mostly because when we read these stories and we think about the inn, at least I do, from my subconscious mind, I bring up an image like this, right? But really, it was more like this, okay? And actually, what's really cool, this is a picture of an actual inn from another city in the same time frame, which was Herculaneum in Italy. Herculaneum was one of the cities that was buried by lava, and so that's why we have such a good representation of what an inn would look like in the Roman Empire in that time. And then we think of stables as this, right? Well, I do, but really it was more like this. Because their stables were in caves, because their animals were very, very important, and it was the safest place to have them. And so all the animals were kept in caves, and they were set up like a stable. So, in Unity, when we're doing a metaphysical Bible interpretation, places represent states of consciousness. This church would represent a state of consciousness. And I always like to begin by looking at the overall arc of the story. So what's happening over whole length of the story? And what we're seeing is a movement from one place to another, from Nazareth to Bethlehem, right? And so if we think about that, and we think of Nazareth representing a state of consciousness, and Bethlehem representing a state of consciousness, then we're talking about the movement of our state of consciousness from one level to another. Is that making sense? Okay, so what we look at is Nazareth is metaphysically interpreted as commonplace or ordinary. So we could say this is our ordinary, everyday state of consciousness. And when we move our consciousness from Nazareth to Bethlehem, which represents spiritual substance, we're moving our consciousness from everyday to a higher state. With me? Yeah. So that's what the movement of Mary and Joseph and the donkey from Nazareth to Bethlehem represents, okay? And remember, they're going to Bethlehem to be registered. So we could say when we move our Mary, our Joseph to Bethlehem, we're moving it up and to be registered in a higher state of consciousness. Oh, I'm going backwards. She warned me about that. So who's moving from Nazareth to Bethlehem but Joseph, Mary, and the soon-to-be-born Jesus? So since Jesus represents that Christ idea, that Christ principle within us, so when it's in Nazareth, it's just a seed. But as we move to a higher state of consciousness, it has more of an opportunity to grow and expand. And women represents feelings or feeling nature. Mary particularly love, and it's both love the feeling, and take a deep breath. Here's an idea. And love can also represent desire. Because when we love someone, don't we desire them? Yeah, so it represents desire. And men represents thoughts and thinking nature. And Joseph represents wisdom. So wisdom is an interesting word. A better word today might be discernment, because it's our ability to evaluate. It's our ability to compare one thing with another. And then, so you guys know this story, because there was no place for them in the inn. Where did they have to go? To the stable, right? So then the inn's a place in consciousness, yes. Okay. Innkeeper. And we have no room in the inn. What does this mean? So the inn is a public place in consciousness. So couldn't that be your conscious phase of mind? Right? I mean, we're happy no one else can hear our thoughts and feelings, right? Right? But it's a busy place, isn't it? Isn't your conscious phase of mind pretty busy? Aren't you always thinking and feeling and analyzing things? Okay, so the inn represents your conscious phase of mind, and the innkeeper is a man, right? So we would say it represents a thought, and since the innkeeper is the one who runs the inn, we could say it's a ruling thought in my mind. It's a ruling thought in your mind. It's the thought that's directing everything in your consciousness. Are you good with that? Okay. And no room in the inn says, you have a busy mind, right? You have lots of thoughts and feelings going at the same time. And so what happens, the innkeeper tells him, get in the back. Okay, so what do you think that means? Go back to the stable. What do you think that means? What do you think the stable in a cave could represent? Sheltered, a sheltered place. How about your subconscious or unconscious phase of mind? So we're moving from conscious phase of mind that's now in a higher state because it's in Bethlehem, right? And we're moving now to the subconscious phase of that, or the unconscious phase of that. So our wisdom and our love and that Christ principle, that seed is going with us in consciousness to that place. Have you ever put anything on the back burner of your mind for it to work for a while? Come on. Yeah. I do that all the time. Okay, I put it on the back burner knowing that while my conscious mind is busy doing things, my subconscious mind or unconscious mind is doing some work that I'm not aware of, right? And doesn't that usually help you to give better answers to whatever you're working on, right? Yeah. So that's what's happening here. So while they were there, the time came for her, or Mary, to deliver her child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in the manger. Now, what do you think that could mean? Well, the manger is a safe, what did you say, secure? Sheltered. So you got the cave, you got the manger. This is a safe and comfortable place in the subconscious mind. Yeah. Bands of cloth, necessary restraint and limitation. Because whenever we're developing an idea, there has to be some restraint, right? There has to be some limitation. In fact, what we do to an idea, we start with an idea of being a big old thing, right? And then we limit that idea in some way and to something specific. That's how we manifest everything. This candle started with the idea of candle, and then the person making it thought about it, limited all the ideas of candleness they could possibly think of to that particular one on the screen of their minds, and then they made it. Make sense? So it's important for us, even though that Christ idea is huge and unlimited, in fact, it represents our infinite potential, we must limit it in specific ways in order to make it useful here and now. So I like to say, I am wondrous infinite potential expressing in finite ways. I am wondrous infinite potential expressing in finite ways. Join me and know that. I am wondrous infinite potentials expressing in finite ways. Yeah. So, and the various animals, well, they represent something in you, and those are your more natural, everyday thoughts and feelings. And those are necessary for the development of your Christ nature as well. So we could say our ego thoughts and feelings are as much involved in the process. So then Charles said this, Paul doubtless, oh wait a minute, that Paul is not me. That's the Apostle Paul. I'm the faux Paul. Okay, bump. So the Apostle Paul doubtless had this in mind when he wrote the Colossians concerning the mystery which have been hid for the ages and generations, which is the Christ in you, the hope of glory. There is this infinite principle, this Christ, this idea that is the core of your beingness. We're using it all the time. And in a way, it's influencing us at the same time. It's your innate goodness, okay? And it is your hope of glory. And that relates to this candle, that first candle we light at Lent. That hope, it represents hope. It represents faith too. Hope is a form of faith. And so whether you know it or not, if you know it now, there's that within you which you've been using and maybe not aware of it, that is now your hope of being a better you. Is anybody here wanting to be better in some way? Yeah, we want to be better people, and we want to manifest better lives, and we want to help others, right? My mission in life is to help people help themselves get happier. You decide what happier is, right? But we're here together. We're here together. And then Charles said, and keep it to Lent, in every man the Christ or the Word of God is enfolded. It is an idea that contains ideas. Now, this can mess with our mind at Christmas because we're thinking of Jesus Christ, and Charles is thinking of the Christ, which he defined as this magnificent, we could call it an archetypical idea that God didn't give us. It's innate to us because we are innately divine, yes? Yeah. So God giving it to us is based on our old understanding that God gives us stuff, okay? Or that we inherited it somehow, but really it's innately what you are. And this whole journey of Christmas, we're reminded that this time of the year is that we're being reminded to wake up to that again at this time of year. We're being reminded in order to do it, we got to move from this normal, everyday level of consciousness and put ourselves in this higher spiritual substance level of consciousness. And the way in which that idea is going to be developed and nurtured is by us using our wisdom, which was Joseph, right? And Mary, which is our love, which is both the feeling and the desire. You have to have the desire to manifest this. Desire, in a way, is the driver, and wisdom is like the shotgun driver giving the directions, right? Because Charles said, love without wisdom runs amok. Yeah, right. Love without wisdom runs amok. So we use our wisdom to direct our love. It's the person. It's our GPS system, we could say. Right? So it's what we use to manage the expression of this amazing archetypical idea. And so Charles tells us how we can do that. People can greatly accelerate the growth in themselves of the Christ mind or the Christ idea by using affirmations that identify with the Christ. This is why we do affirmation, folks. We can do them for other things, but we mostly want to use our affirmations to claim our divine identity, to claim our divine nature, to claim this divine idea. And remember, it's an idea that contains ideas, right? So do you know some of those ideas? The 12 powers. This church celebrates them. Those are 12 divine ideas that make up spiritual man or spiritual woman or spiritual person, and then we use that to manifest us. And he went on to say this: these affirmations often are so far beyond the present attainment of the novice as to seem ridiculous. Does that feel ridiculous at times? Yeah, when my evil twin's out, it sure feels ridiculous. But when it is understood that the statements are grouped about an ideal to be attained, they seem fair and reasonable. Yeah, that's what we're studying in Unity. That's what our teachings are about. It's about this beautiful essence at the core of our beingness that you and I get to consciously explore, develop, and share. And this Christmas story is telling us how it begins. Charles said, every state of consciousness is first planted as a seed idea by some individual. When you want to change your mind, don't you have to change a thought or idea or belief? Yes? And the way you know you want to do that is when your life's running amok. If your life isn't expressing what you want, you have to change the seed. When we try to change it in outer ways, it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's still going down. Okay? Yeah, so we have to go back into our consciousness and look at the originating idea. Whoops, I passed one up. When wisdom and love, Joseph and Mary, are unified in the individual consciousness, man or humankind is a master of ideas and brings forth under the original creative ideas. You and I are master of ideas. We are master of our thoughts, we're master of our images, we're master of our beliefs. When we think our thoughts, ideas, and beliefs and images master us, we have it backwards. And we have to stand in our divine power and claim the truth about ourselves. We claim that Christ idea. And then we have the awareness and the power to change our thoughts, ideas, and images and beliefs that are leading ourselves down the wrong path. Is that making sense? Yeah, so Unity provides this amazing teacher that we call Jesus that we're supposed to follow. We're not supposed to imitate him. We're supposed to look at what he did and try to do it. And he said things like, I am the bread, right? So Charles recommended we say things like, I am the bread. Let's say that. I am the bread. You want to be braver? Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father. That's Jesus claiming his divinity in the language of his time. Remember, he was Jewish. Sometimes we forget that. When you see me, you see the Father. Can you claim that with me? When you see me, you see the Father. Are you willing to do this? I am the Christ idea, whole and perfect, together. I am the Christ idea, whole and perfect. And what is that idea made up of? The 12 powers, which we convert into thoughts. Very good. We convert those to thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and images in our mind, and then we go about limiting them in some way to create something in our minds, and then we can manifest that outward. Can you say this? I am Christ, whole and perfect. Let's say that together. I am Christ, whole and perfect. That was done so sacredly, beautifully. Let's add a little more power to it using our dominion center, that place where we claim our personal power. Let's say that with power. I am Christ, whole and perfect. Now, an affirmation is a prayer. You knew that, right? And guess what? Charles and his second wife, Cora, said we are to pray vehemently. What? You know, we're used to getting small and praying to God softly so we don't disturb him, you know. And no, we stand in our glory. We stand in our power. Okay? Stand, please. Let's stand. We're going to say this vehemently as you can. You can stay seated. There you go. All right. Can you say this vehemently? Can you say it with zeal? Can you say it knowing it's true, even though at this moment you're not showing up quite like you want to? Are you ready for that? Let's say it. I am Christ, whole and perfect. And so you are, and so I am, and so it is. Let's take that into meditation. I hope that felt as good to you as it does to me, to claim the truth of my beingness. And you know, the best time to claim that truth is when it seems the most ridiculous. Because when we're in that monkey mind or that adverse phase of the ego, to change that in our minds is just a thought or an idea away. Knowing that an idea or thought is the currency of consciousness. And the energy and the feeling we put behind that idea or thought is what grows it in our awareness. So when we're running amok, that's the very time we want to remember and stop. We want to remember that Christ is the truth of our divinity. It is an idea whose time has come. Say to yourself, I am Christ, whole and perfect. And feel it as you say it. When you switch from your monkey mind thoughts to I am Christ, whole and perfect, you're replanting that seed right there in your consciousness. And we nurture and grow it by thinking and feeling other thoughts and images relating to it. So that becomes our focus. So let's take that affirmation. I am Christ, whole and perfect, into a few moments of silence. And so now you know how to do that. When your adverse ego is running amok, when monkey mind is out of control, you're in natural mind, you're in the commonplace mind. And you gather into your awareness divine wisdom and divine love, rising yourself up into that spiritual substance called Bethlehem. And it's not in the noisy inn where it's accomplished. It's accomplished in the back of your mind as you plant that seed thought and give it birth once again. Let's claim that affirmation together. I am Christ, whole and perfect. Again. I am Christ, whole and perfect. Now let's do it zeal-liciously together. I am Christ, whole and perfect. And so you are, and so I am, and so it is.